Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune Training, the Steve and Adam Show, with an extra Adam this time. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello, Adams. How are we
Hello.
today?
Hello, sir. Adam squared even in this one.
Ooh.
Indeed.
So hey,
Adam sandwich.
I'm Adam, and that guy that way, that's Steve, and then that guy down Brady Bunch situation here, that guy's in the other Adam.
Yep.
Hey, Adam.
They're the Adams.
Hey,
Adam.
What are you doing here today, and who are you, and what, and all those things? Give us. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
I'm happy to. So my name's Adam Nichols. I'm a product manager in the Windows Autopatch team. And Steve and I go way back and asked if I would come and have a fun discussion around Autopatch in a non-official capacity. So
I thought you were saying a non-confrontational way, because it's like you're on the wrong channel, bro.
I was starting there, and then I realized that probably won't be true. So we might as well just keep it very confrontational. So
Indeed.
Yeah,
Got to have some fun with it.
Why not?
I'm on board.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's throw it down.
Okay, so you said Autopatch.
Not Autopatch?
Yeah, it's a.
Now I can guess
Not
at
to be-
what that is. But I have no idea what this product is, why we need it, because we got Hello for Business, and we've got WSUS. I mean, WSUS is like rock solid.
Been around for a while.
I think you've also got Update for Business there as well, Adam.
Plus, I have all of my vendors have their own update utilities, and then Teams has just whatever the heck it wants to have. So does Edge, and then feature updates, which I mean they gave us a great acronym on that one. They're telling you what they want. FU in the name. Like, come on, like so. Like So if you're saying that you got a solution that helps me not have to deal with those things, I want to hear about it.
We do. We have a great solution called Windows Autopatch. Really, the goal of Windows Autopatch is to help make patching, really Windows enterprise patching, a thing of the past. And what we're trying to do is introduce tools and a managed service to automate and simplify a lot of the mundane tasks that a lot of organizations spend a lot of time on month in, month out. We've spoken to a lot of customers and really gathered together from an industry perspective to understand what can we do from a Microsoft perspective to really make this a better experience. And that's accumulated into Windows Autopatch, which we're super excited to be here to talk about.
All right, so I'm telling you, I don't know.
You want me to tell you a little bit more about it?
Well, I want you to say it again, but without all the marketing fluff on top.
Oh, come on.
Use descriptive words that actually tell me what it is that you've created here and why this is better than all the other tools that we have.
So,
or not even better, just what do I need?
Let's start off with descriptive,
yeah,
and then we can step into the why.
Windows Autopatch is a managed service provided by Microsoft, which will automate. Well, I should say automate the monthly release of Windows updates within your enterprise. It is available as part of Windows Enterprise E3, E5 licensing. So any Microsoft customer who subscribes or has purchased enterprise licensing for Windows is entitled to this service.
One thing that I'll call it out on this one straight away, Adam, because I know it's called out a couple of people. It is explicitly if you have the Windows E3 or the M365 E3 or higher. Yeah.
So
the other SKUs that may include Enterprise E3 doesn't necessarily get Windows Autopatch.
M365 or Windows E3 pieces of the E3. Not to be confused with all the other things that have E3.
Office E3, for example, would not include.
An example.
Does it cover A3?
No.
A3 is not included.
Is the Business Premium Even though Business Premium includes Windows, a subset of the Windows E3 license, it doesn't include Autopatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and EDU licensing, which is falls in that A3, isn't going to be included either.
Nor F3.
But what
Or
I am
F3.
hearing though
worker.
is that this isn't part of the Intune Premium, remote help cash grab situation. So tell me more.
You said it, not us.
So, well, you said it, not us.
I will keep saying it because
the team has been working extremely hard to build this service for existing enterprise customers. So this is available to all Windows E3 entitlements that fall under the Autopatch entitlements as part of your existing investment into Windows Enterprise. So, let's be honest, it's not free. I mean, these are services that you've paid for through your subscriptions or your licensing. These are just here to help enhance the value and provide, really drive that Microsoft. And again, this is marketing, but I believe in it. Is building tools that help organizations achieve more with less. And that's really the core goal of Autopatch, is we're looking at like, hey, what can we build that can take that workload off of admins? And nobody enjoys patching. Nobody enjoys patch management on a month-in-month out basis.
So, Adam, one thing that I'd be curious to know, leading question. What's included?
Adam. Okay.
So does it include any of the other products, or is it just Windows?
That's a great question. So with Windows Autopatch, we started off with a charter that's pretty broad. So as Autopatch evolves, you're going to hear about other Microsoft products that get pulled into the mix, and that we're looking at providing kind of a unified experience through the Autopatch service. Today, our primary focus is really on quality updates. Get quality updates really solid, provide a solid experience, something very manageable. And then moving on to feature updates. We know that a big ask from enterprises and organizations is a lot of organizations are worried about Windows 10 to Windows 11 uplift. So we have some really great features and functionality coming in to help with Windows 10 to 11 uplift, as well as your annual feature updates built into the service as well. So primarily today, our core focus is quality updates and feature updates, with some light help in Windows or Microsoft Edge browser as well within the service, and then also some great stuff coming for other products in the near future.
So help me draw and so for those watching, we do have a demo coming, sort of. I know we're going to do something because they've asked. Steve asked, "Hey, can you get a machine?" So I'm autopiloting over here as we're talking.
All I was looking for was a web browser.
I know, but I'm also going to get us.
What is that?
Get us a VM we can spin up.
Do you mean Microsoft Edge?
Yeah, it's the one with the forward slashes and stuff. Okay, so what is the difference between what you're providing with Autopatch and what I can get? Let's just talk about Windows updates for now. So so currently with Windows Update for Business, we can set up. I've got at least the granular control on the group, so I have to choose my targets. I have to create target groups and maintain them. We can set up the deployment criteria and rules around how often and how quickly reboots and grace periods and all those features and things. And then I get what Microsoft releases each patch Tuesday, and yay, it's working. But then bolt onto that, we've got feature updates, which interestingly, we had moved to enablement packages with Windows 10, and now we're back to the full on yay, we get to do a big feature update with Windows 11. So now we're back in that boat, because previously it was like, who cares about feature updates? Because they're just like a regular update now. Now we're back to it's a bigger deal, and people are now going to build task sequences back around them. And
no, don't go there. We don't need to go back to OSD. We don't need to go back.
Really don't need to do that.
The ship has already sailed. People are already doing that again.
Steve. You're giving me anxiety.
Steve, That's Adam. That's Adam.
Well, I meant Adam, and both of you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are doing.
Hey, I said don't do that. Don't do task sequences. You don't need to. The upgrade from 10 to 11 using Update for Business or WSUS is just the same as
It's
the standard
not
feature
10 to
update.
11 though, but just the
10
11
to 10.
11. It's people.
11.
People want to manage it, and so anyway, I'm just
Sure,
throwing out what I know people are already doing for this. But then, sorry. So then the last piece of that is quality updates. The being able to do a 0-day out of band update or those sorts of things. So those are the three things that currently exist within Intune within Windows Update for Business today. In addition to just like don't manage Windows updates at all, you just let them come down like it does for billions of other enterprise or consumer customers.
Hundreds
That's
of
an
millions.
option. Or then you've got the full-on enterprise on-prem stuff going through WSUS, config manager, all that stuff. So all right. So what's Autopatch giving me that those things don't already give me?
Simplicity is really the core of it. So you named off a lot of different technologies there. You named off things like WSUS, you named off things like Windows Update for Business. You also talked about just leaving your Windows device default out of the box and just not configuring anything. Not configuring anything is totally reasonable. I mean, I actually think it's very reasonable for a general productivity user. The problem is you get into enterprises and you get into specialized workloads. Organizations need a little bit more control, and you know this, Adam. I mean, organizations need a lot more control. So that's typically why in enterprises we used things back in the past like group policy, because we needed a conformity, we needed to control and manage at scale, and the only way to do that is to ensure that we conformed as much to the norm as possible to reduce our overhead costs. So then we move into tools like WSUS. WSUS is great. WSUS has been rock solid. It's been around forever. It's a trusted tool in most enterprises. You have a lot of third parties that built onto WSUS. But the problem with WSUS, in my opinion, there are a lot of problems with WSUS. WSUS doesn't scale in a way where we look at, and you can configure group policy to address WSUS. You can point WSUS to the internet, which is a horrible idea, but there are a lot of things that you can do with WSUS.
So I'm going to throw in there, Adam, that the one thing that you missed with WSUS and why it's a big pain point is I need to train an IT admin how to use SQL or Jet database and IIS and OS configurations and.
There's a lot of learning that goes along with these tools, and especially legacy tools. Remember the old white pages for a lot of these tools back in the day? It was some serious reading that you sat down, you read through the whole thing, and then you had to go through it again to make notes, and you had to go through it again to make correlations. They weren't just technologies that you picked up and worked with. So, I mean, there's a downfall for WSUS. Now, for organizations that have WSUS in place, that's great. It works, everything works. But we also noticed, part of Steve's point, COVID threw a wrench in a lot of that. Think about patching and pushing your updates over a VPN, and that experience was horrible in the middle of your business day when you're trying to be on a Teams call and your client's downloading a Windows update from the WSUS server on premise. And I mean, depending on your internet, you could be paying egress for that. I mean, that gets expensive.
But also, why are you paying to download it and upload it twice?
Because that's the way it was always done.
You've already got it.
Yeah.
You're already outside the perimeter. Why am I downloading it from internal?
Well, and Steve, to your point, the answer in a lot of those cases, when I was working with customers in the field before coming over to the product group for Autopatch, was customers did it because that's the way they've always done it. They didn't know any other way to do it. They didn't have time. They didn't have resources to research the new technology. So this is where you introduce things like WFB, Windows Update for Business, and WFB is a very effective tool. They've done a great job of building an API layer that Intune leverages to enact those configurations in Intune, but then also on the client itself. And so you can go in and build a deployment plan within WFB. The nice thing about WFB too is it makes it a lot easier to build what we call rings, which was a modern approach to really to servicing that was introduced early in Windows 10. Because you guys remember back in the day when we did we did Windows XP to Windows 7 migration. That was a heavy lift. That was 3-4 years for most enterprises.
It was.
It was.
And
I ran
USMT,
that project, and it just about killed me.
I've run multiple of those projects, and yes.
Yeah. I mean, so these are the scenarios where we start talking about WFB, and WFB is a tool, and it's a very effective tool. But the problem is, and this comes back to the WSUS scenario, is you have to have people researching that. You have to have people configuring that. You have to have people managing that. And this is where Windows Autopatch comes in. At its simplest form, out of the box, and we'll show you this in a demo, it's as simple as enroll devices into the service. And we will take those devices, we'll assign them to rings for you. We'll distribute them throughout those rings for you. We'll then assign policies to those rings to push the updates. And then we'll provide you reporting so you can see the status of the push to those rings for you. And we'll monitor that for you. And so when you start thinking about Autopatch, the whole purpose of Autopatch is to really take a lot of the individual work out of enterprises of having to organize, orchestrate, configure, maintain, manage, and really our goal is to make it simple. And
okay, so
the other one that I'll throw in there, that I think is important to be putting in people's mind, it also gives you the ability as the IT admin to go, Microsoft chose to put you into that ring. Is there a problem?
Yeah,
because it takes that conversation away from me as the IT admin having made that call of I'm going to put you in the early adopter ring to obviously Microsoft has a good reason to put you in the early adopter ring. There's useful insights coming from you, so therefore you've been added into that.
So, but see, I mean, Steve and I have been arguing about this type of stuff for years now. So Steve takes it from the approach of do less, trust us, hands off, just let it go. And that's definitely what it sounds like you're describing with Autopatch. So I definitely see the benefits of, okay, do more for me here. But there are absolutely people that just cringe that, wait, you're going to just pick the devices for me? You're going to just do, there are people that want full control, that require full control for whatever reason.
You can go and move them into the rings you want.
Well, so that's my lead in here is okay.
And we'll definitely go into that in the demo.
Awesome.
So there's no requirement to keep them in the rings that Microsoft puts them in.
Yeah. So we give customers autonomy to define what's best for their business. And a lot of the feedback, so Autopatch, we launched Autopatch private or public preview in June. And a lot of the feedback that came out of that was, this is great. Adam, to your point, a lot of admins just aren't ready to hand over, full control over to Microsoft. They're like, look, we want help with this. But we're not ready. We don't have that level of confidence in any MSP to take this over. So what we're looking at is we're like, hey, trust us with it. Let's do it together. Get in that cycle and we'll show you how it works. And it's very easy to get enrolled. And then also we'll talk a little bit more later on about configurations and some cool controls that are coming that we just announced in a Ask Me Anything this week with a couple of our product leads as well.
I heard a really cool way to position an AMA as a Microsoft person. Now it's Ask Microsoft Anything instead of Ask Me Anything.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry. All right, forgive me.
That's great.
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get an earful from marketing on this one.
Nice. Okay, so I have one additional question, and then I think it would be great to get into a demo. I kind of didn't want to intersperse all the extra questions as we are doing the demo because I want to get all this up.
But there's fun doing it during the demo.
I know, but okay, we probably still will, but this is top of mind. Okay, so we have been using Desktop Analytics when it came out, and we used the previous one,
the previous three,
whatever. Yeah. So I love it. The thing that I have loved about it from day one, and maybe because I wrote something like this long ago for our systems before we had config manager stuff, was the auto ring creation piece of it, because desktop analytics was designed to look at drivers, hardware, and applications and get the least number of devices that covered all of those items but at the end you say, here's 600 computers, and if you test against all 600 of these in your first ring, you will cover every flavor of everything that's in your environment. It's beautiful. Love that concept. We actually still are using our ring 3 in our deployment. So we've got IT, and then more IT, and then SMEs, and then we have 0 because it's binary. So we that's it. It's not actually binary. I know that's what. Yes. Okay, so it's an array. We're starting at the 0.
Yes.
Sorry, that just totally threw me because I knew people was going to call me on saying it's not. Anyway, our later ring, when we have to go out into our pre-general deployment ring, is our pilot ring, and our early customer acceptance ring.
How many rings do you have?
It's like 4, 5. Oh. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The one that happens before we get to general deployment is end users, but it's a random mix of end users. Yeah. And we've been leveraging config manager collections that get generated by desktop analytics to create those rings for us, because it's like the best cross section. I can't come up with a better cross section of devices. So all of that to say, is Autopatch going to do something similar to that? Are you going to leverage that same functionality? How are you choosing the rings?
Rings today are largely based upon allocation. So we look at previous rings and we look at like just having a proper allocation across all of it. There are functionality that we're looking at, kind of where you're talking about, that we are looking into integrating into the service itself. But today we do a simple allocation. So it's going to be allocating based upon membership and making sure that we have a representation. We do a little bit of hardware evaluation, but it's to the point, not quite to the extent of what you had in Update Analytics.
Cool.
So, but we have some stuff coming for that.
So, I mean, if we're there, let's go ahead and let's jump into setting this up. And then I've got, I never have a shortage of questions. So
correct.
Are you driving for us, Adam?
Yes,
I am.
Adam's going to be driving. Because surprisingly, you and I have both done this before, so we'll go.
I've never done this before. This is going to be a surprise.
So,
all right.
Ooh, is this what Intune looks like?
Well, now, yeah, it's not MIM anymore, so
Well, yes, it is. It's still at the top as MIM.
It's still branded.
Hey, I got to throw this one up there because I heard this new AKA for it. So you know how obviously we've always had aka.memac, aka.in is the new short link you can use to get to the Intune portal.
All right,
nice.
I knew something was coming.
Intune training.
All right.
All right.
There's this other one that's really, really good. Oh, that's not it. It's just it's I.T. It's just I.T.
I.T. Yeah.
I.T. All right, carry on. Okay.
All right. So we want to enroll into Windows Autopatch. You're probably going to wonder, how long is this going to take us? And I hope we have. Yeah, we've got about 2 hours, so we're good. It's not as bad as Exchange like back in the day. We're good. Or Skype for Business, if you ever deployed that. That was a blast. So let's go to Tenant Administration. And enrollment is really as simple as this. If you can, and scroll down a little bit, it should show up a little bit further down in your
because we're ultra zoomed in, which is a good thing. But if you scroll down in the middle section. Yeah,
so what you're going to see there is you're going to see a Windows Autopatch tenant enrollment. This is going to show up for all customers that are entitled. And actually, if you don't see the option for Windows Autopatch, there's a strong possibility you don't have a qualifying license. So you can always work with your account team if you don't see the option in your tenant. This is our standard just EULA. You can just read through it. Really, this is just giving us permission to run a evaluation to make sure your tenant's ready. You can go ahead and hit agree because this is a big deal. Now, this is my question for you, Adam. Are you logged in as a global admin?
I would hope so. Yes. Yes.
Do you have permissions to do important things in your environment? Ooh, look at this. This is great. So our readiness check, and
Sorry,
just
I
like a
shouldn't be
little
so
bit
excited.
of, I want to call out.
I'm actually, I was internally debating whether I've actually reassigned licenses to our tenant.
You're like thinking, you're like,
we
Let's
just
find
got
out.
our okay. Yes, we have licenses.
so
Yeah,
a
we
couple
do.
cool things. A couple cool things about this. You'll notice that like right off the bat, you see 2 ready, 1 not ready, and 1 advisory. There were, like, when we originally launched Autopatch, there were about 8 different readiness checks. And we went through this process of actually building and deploying what we call first party application for our service. And we dramatically reduced the number of prerequisites here. But we're not quite ready. So we can't deploy the service with how it's configured today. So let's look at view details and see what it is that we're lacking. Okay, so update rings for Windows 10 or later. So what this means is we have a WFB policy assigned in the tenant, and it's assigned to all devices. And that's going to directly interfere with Autopatch. So
that doesn't surprise me in the slightest in this tenant.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, it's very common.
It's funny because I suspected that I'm building this VM and I didn't want it to get patched yet. So I was going to go and remove the rings anyway. So that's perfect. Okay.
So yeah, in a lot of organizations, we work with customers, they're like, look, we don't want to remove it from the current deployment of all devices. Typically, I recommend is build a dynamic group that just incorporates all your devices and then retarget it to that. And then when you go through and do your actual deployment of Autopatch, we'll show you can take the Autopatch enrollment group and set it as an exclude to the other policy. So that way you can run them both, at the same time without any overlap. So now
that's probably,
yeah.
Well, you go.
I was going to say, now we can go ahead and rerun the readiness check and look at that. We're gravy.
We're ready. Even though we've got a little red line in there.
Well, the advisory. And the advisory is there because it's permanently there for co-management in case you have SCCM configured in co-management. Co-management, we do require, you guys don't have co-management integrated. I'm surprised with Adam on the call.
Our tenant is cloud only.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I love it.
We do have a couple of domains that are syncing, but that's because we needed it for Hello for Business. But
yeah, sweet.
This whole tenant is cloud only because it's the Intune training channel, not
the one that's
training channel.
The one that's tenant attached is called the intern.training.
Intern.
Yes.
I love it. All right. So at this point, we meet our readiness checks. They're very simple, so there's not a whole lot going on there. We can go ahead and go to the enrollment. So we kick off the enrollment here, and this is going to do another really quick check to make sure that all of our prereqs are still active. We can check, say, give me permission. This is what this is doing is leveraging your global admin permissions, hitting our APIs to create the our third part or our first party application, as well as the necessary policies. So these are things like DCV2 policies. These are going to be things like the Windows Update policies, as well as some necessary groups to run the service with that first party application. So once you hit agree, you've agreed.
I'll tell you, Adam, this scares me. I don't want Microsoft to run its own platform for me. Like, it just feels.
Yeah, just go with it.
Okay.
Yeah, just lean in. So put a random number in there. It just needs to meet the schema.
Yeah, you have to put a +1 in there, and then
and a space.
Yeah, and a space. And then, so this is the other thing, as I found, Steve, the numbers can't match from primary admin to secondary admin. Somebody put a lot of time in this.
Yeah.
I am asking to have the secondary admin removed and even primary admin.
Yeah, there's a conversation around this one that we'll giggle about.
Enough numbers.
Yeah, that's a lot of numbers. It's funny. I was complaining that the thing that takes the longest about enrollment is entering the admin info.
Yep.
All right, so now you can hit complete. Yeah.
Once you hit complete, one of the reasons why we're doing this and capturing those details is so we can contact you if there is issues with updates or we know who the registered admins are.
Is that so that the guy who's on the auto patch desk on Patch Wednesday assigning all the updates can call you and be like, hey man, I screwed up. I pushed it to the wrong rings.
Yep.
No,
that's exactly what it's for.
Actually, well, and to be in all honesty, we're not going to be proactively reaching out to customers. The only time we really did use that during enrollment was when we saw like a critical enrollment failure, as when we were in public preview and even early, like when we were in public preview trying to understand like, hey, this failed, help us understand why, in multiple variations. But right now we're not going to be reaching out to customers and calling that number being like, hey,
I just figured
your
you were
computer
trying to
didn't patch.
implement AI, but somebody misspelled it. They thought the I was an L and they hired Al instead.
It's true. Al's a nice guy though.
All right.
So don't knock him, dude.
Fair enough. Okay.
So the good news is you can hit continue. The service is going to continue to run in the background, but once we're at this point, majority of the policies and configurations have already been dropped on the device. So if you hit the button continue, this will take you into the devices pane. Now, a couple things you're going to notice is the service still building in the background. So you may leave this pane and you may not see the options for auto patch quite yet, but they'll start showing up as those services finish up. But because we're at this point, we can start enrolling devices into our service. So you'll see here right under Discover Devices, you have these devices are managed by Windows Autopatch. To register, you add them to this AD group, Azure AD group, which you can actually just click on that link for Windows Autopatch device registration. And that'll take you over to the group management for that individual group. Now, Autopatch enrollment is really as easy as just adding devices to that group. You can nest dynamic groups in there if you want. So if you have a group that already represents a good chunk of your environment, you could drop that in there. But if you go into add members and just add a couple devices in there, you can start getting devices enrolled into Autopatch immediately.
We have some devices.
We might. One.
Autopatch. All right.
You actually named it. It's Windows 11 computer, isn't it?
It is, and it asked me, and I was like, "Well, this will be easy to find." So yes.
Yep. All right, we'll give that a minute to show up in there. All right, cool. And if you go back to our and then you can hit the Discover bus or Discover Devices. So the Discover Devices button, what that does is it actually kicks off a job in the background that queries that folder or the Azure AD group for any new members, and then builds them and adds them into the service. If you don't hit Discover Devices, that job is meant to run every hour. It's offset, so it's not like every hour on the hour, but it's offset based upon your tenant. But if you want it done faster, you can just hit Discover. But when we're doing things like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I was thinking when you took us to go add to the group, I hadn't fully read the text here. That you were just showing us one way to do it, but no, that is the way to do it, is go put members in that group, then come back here. I was thinking we would need to do Discover Device, or we could do Discover Devices and it would auto add them to the group, but so it's a two-step deal there.
Yeah, gotcha. It's a two-step. We kind of went through with a number of different customers on different, and this was like the recommended approach for a majority of our customers. Said this was the way that they enjoyed the enrollment into the service, as opposed to querying Azure AD and just pulling in all the devices in from Azure AD and then enabling them from there.
Oh yeah, because then you're having to sort through them and you don't know what you've got and all that stuff. And
you got problems with like stale devices, which can be problematic. So what we can do is once the sync finishes, and if you hit refresh a couple more times, that should, typically it goes through pretty quick, but we're just setting up the service. Oh, Autopatch is finished now. So you can go ahead, the backend service finished configuring. So that means our first party app is done. All of our groups are done. And we're just waiting for this device to show up in our.
It should be there now if you hit refresh.
It should be there. Yeah, so there's our Autopatch device. Woo! Serial number active, and then you look at the group there that it was assigned to, and that is our first group. So it was assigned to first. Now, the initial release of Autopatch is very fixed. We set the rings, we set the timing, we set everything for you. You just have to enroll them like this, and then they're going to be on a schedule. They're going to get patched. You have the ability here. So you said something about like, do I have the ability to move these devices between rings? If you check the box next to Autopatch test, go up to device actions and then go to assign device group. You can actually select a group, and so go to broad, and that'll move your schedule to the broad schedule. Yep.
Hang on a second. I'll take a moment here and let's appreciate the naming conventions. Oh my God, really? We're gonna do this? Sorry. When it said first, in my brain, I said, I guarantee it's not going to be second as the next group name. I just knew it. I called it. I totally knew it. This does not surprise me at all. Okay.
And it's not the first either, because we have test. So you get assigned that to our test group, which is going to be like the very, very first group that you assign it to.
Putting it in the test group also puts Edge into beta mode.
Actually, that's only test today. So if you move it into the test mode, it'll move. Oh yeah, sorry. I thought you said first. Adam's got me messed up here. He's laughing in the background, criticizing the naming structure.
I cannot take this seriously anymore. Weird.
Yes, you can.
So good news is
totally did not surprise me. Oh, that's so good.
So anyways, if you so did you move that to first? What group did you move that to?
No,
I think you left it in first.
I did.
So go ahead and move it into like test, just for kicks and giggles. Yeah, just for fun times. So what that'll do is that'll go around, it'll update. You can hit a refresh and it should say like test in there. And that's been moved to the test ring. It's maybe lagging a little bit just because the service is brand new. While we're letting that, go ahead.
I might be doing some other stuff in the background.
Well, our tenant is in Australia and takes a minute generally.
Oh, so. Adam, Steve, did you add another device? Nice, I love it.
I did. I added a lot more devices because we have a lot of orphan devices in our platform.
Oh, really? So, all right, Adam, just to give you a heads up, when we talked about simplifying the patching experience, let's say that you're an admin with a staff of 3 guys and you're managing 600 devices or 3,000 devices. We know those IT departments exist. You don't have a lot of time to set up a sophisticated patch schedule. You don't have a lot of time to do it responsibly. And you have a lot of other things on your plate that really require a lot more time than patching. And so you were just able to enroll devices that easily into Autopatch, and now they're scheduled, set to patch, and you're going to get reporting out of the whole thing. Was that pretty easy?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it was no deployment of Exchange, but I mean, it's pretty easy.
It's almost, it feels too easy, Adam. If I'm honest, it certainly ain't no WSUS. We would have to hit stop and come back in several hours or tomorrow waiting for the first sync to happen.
Yep. So what I'm going to suggest, Adam, is to tease out the
I was going to say, let's start diving into the mechanics.
Yep. Well, I was going to say into release management.
Well, hey, let me gather my thoughts here. Okay, so number one, this is really timely because like desktop analytics is on its last leg. It's deprecated. It's going away. And so I know that I'm going to lose that cool functionality I'm using right now for my rings. It's already complicated for me to try to, group all of my devices and things that I have to do today. And then not having that dynamic pilot group of like, I can identify my IT people's machines. It's that next ring of like building that confidence in that next ring. That's the aggravating bit. So this is great. This is cool. So I guess the things that I'm not seeing here are information about what I'm actually going to get, when I'm going to get it, and those sorts of bits of information. Like, how do I know that? What's my schedule? How do I put this in a change meeting and say, here's what to expect and when? What's the prediction there on how that's how does that work?
That's a great question. We should probably build that
management for patching.
Every month, most companies do for every month.
Steve, we have every facility every month in our change meeting will list out all the change tickets for different groups of servers and workstations that are going to get patched and things. Mostly servers, because we put one ticket in for all of our workstations when they move to general deployment, generally. But each site, we've got sites that have like devices that they manually patch and reboot, or manually apply and reboot.
It's not
lab
standard,
machines and stuff like that.
Change request that you just like every month, every 4 weeks. I'm going to be patching these computers.
I have a guy who has a Outlook reminder to go put in a change ticket each month.
Would it help your change control process if Microsoft kept an eye on those patches, and if there was like a health concern that they would pause the update for you and notify you?
So I think that largely, or actually, let me step back one, and then does this work for servers or just workstations?
Workstations today.
Yeah, today our primary focus is workstations. I mean, servers are always something that we're going to look into. I mean, it's definitely interesting, but the primary focus today is endpoints managed through Intune.
So I'm going to go down that rabbit hole for just a minute.
Sure.
And make the use case for servers. So we are, we've talked about this on the channel a bunch. We've been on the journey to Intune, to the cloud, all this stuff for a while now, and one of the things is, hey, we're getting off a config manager. I'm expecting to turn off our config manager servers sometime late next year, or at least I stop logging into them and hand it off to the server team. Server team still has some dependencies on it. We still have some legacy things that still need some help there. So right now they're still doing WSUS and doing config manager patching and patching our fleet of servers. And so a large portion of the change tickets that we get are different server groups and their different patch windows, which they're well established and things like that. But it's giving you the heads up that you're going to have an outage on a particular applications and those sorts of things. So it's not just, hey, we can just say everybody's getting patched this month, let's just all roll with it. It's more just heads up, making sure that users know. But all I'd say, at this point, the best replacement for patching is the Windows Update. In Windows Update automation, Windows Automation Update, whatever the right name is for it. Thing, Steve, you know the name of it.
Azure Monitor.
That one, the one that's built in Azure Monitor.
Windows
Update automation.
Windows Update via Azure Monitor. It's been rebranded a couple of times since I've used it. So
okay,
but that's one I highly recommend if you're using Server Fleet. Go and leverage that today, because that's going to get you to where you're wanting to be, and you robust data points, so you can sit there and go, I have had my 4-hour window where I need to install my updates. It didn't install. This is the reason why it didn't install. And you have something that you can triage to remediate on that. Whereas if you're looking at WSUS or Config Manager, you don't get that full robustness of data points to go, this is why I need to go and look at it. You just get told it didn't work. And that's the same what we're seeing with Windows Autopatch and Windows Update for Business is we get that richness of data points to say, well, these are the exceptions you need to investigate. And this is the same conversation around what does it matter which ring you're in, because it only matters if there's a problem. And when there's a problem, that's when you investigate it. So it's the investigation on exception conversation.
Right.
One thing that I'm going to call out, and I'm going to get you to quickly jump in and have a quick look at something for me, Adam. If you go to the groups area in AAD.
I was already going to this other place.
I know you were, but I want you to go somewhere else. And what you'll see in here, I think it's still Modern Workplace, or have we rebranded everything Windows Autopatch now, Adam?
Modern Workplace for groups.
Okay, cool. So if we go to Modern Workplace and we go to the test group, which is, that one there. Click on that one for me and go in there. What you'll see is Adam's computer is in there now. Once it's everything.
Well,
it hasn't made it there for some reason.
It hasn't made it there. So that's what I was noticing, because Adam was doing it and the allocation wasn't running. So I was actually gonna go test that in my tenant. to see what's going on there.
Let's just park that. But all right, let's go back to the
fine.
groups there, Adam, and let's go to the first ring just to show the narrative. So that first group's got Adam's device in there and my device, right? There is a conversation that we've seen around on the blogosphere and interwebs where you just drop your computers into these rings or into these groups. Don't do that. If you do that, you will cause issues with your platform.
Because you're not letting the service manage them for you. You want to drop them at the top level and then assign within the service.
That the service may automatically go and change them, or it might just go, you're getting 2 policies.
Gotcha.
Or no policies. So this is where don't go and look at the modern workplace groups. You don't need to touch them. They are for Windows Autopatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, where do you want to start? Do you want to look at release schedules? So you were talking about like, hey, how do I know what's going on in here?
So I think the first thing we need to do is just put that exception in for the policy that we already had there. Oh no, we removed that policy, didn't we?
Yeah, we already took care of that.
That's all good.
Yeah.
So okay, so I guess what I'm thinking is, all right, this is what I'm used to, Windows Update for Business.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of want to draw that correlation and ask the next question of, so some of these things, like this is me telling it, this is what I want to install, but the rest of these things, all right, so you're managing some of these things with the rings, but do I deploy Intune policies now to manage this bit, the user experience settings? What if because I've now unapplied my Windows Update for Business configuration policy. So what happens on the workstation? How can I set my, all of this nice user-friendly, experience piece? Is that expected?
So we set a lot of it. So in the first variation of Autopatch, we're setting a lot of this for you, and we're configuring it based upon our best practices. Now, there is configuration, and we talked about this coming, that we actually just announced this in the AMA this week, that we have customizable rings with customizable configurations, as well as the ability for you to kind of fully define within a reasonable amount of time how these configurations are set. Now, what we would tell customers is never modify these policies. Because
so it wouldn't be these policies, but you can configure these same things in settings catalog or whatever.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Is that supported with Autopatch, or are they going to step on each other?
Well, and as with settings catalog will be subordinate. So these policies will overwrite what's in settings catalog. But if you don't have something that's defined in here, settings catalog will define the policy, and settings catalog will also tell you if there's a conflict that's already there as well. So
right. And so I guess what I'm saying is, so ignore this, but just ignore this in this location, the feature or the Windows Update for Business settings, but just in general, the local Windows Update policies on my machine have a grace period somewhere configured.
Yep.
How do I know what that's going to be, and how do I get control over that?
Then go to the first ring.
Yeah, let's actually go show you how you go check these out. So we have a really cool portal for this. If you go to your devices on your left-hand navigation pane, so go to devices, you're going to see a new section in there show up called Windows Autopatch.
You'll need to refresh.
Yeah, you'll need to refresh the screen. And you'll see Windows Autopatch that shows up there. So you can now remember the pane that you saw right away. This is your devices pane. And then if you go to release management.
Yeah, you should have texted me here earlier before I started talking. This is way better. Okay,
well,
great.
I tried, but you just kept interrupting. So this is very simple today. We do have some new variations of this coming, especially with customizable rings coming, very soon that we talked about at the AMA. But this will tell you your rings, their status, and then your ability of when they're going to actually be available and when their deadline is set to invoke. We are not using grace periods because we're using deadlines at this point within your rings. So your test ring is set to be deployed on the 11th, and then your first ring is set to deploy on October 12th. Fast is the 17th, broad is the 20th. Today's the 28th. So if we enroll these new devices, they're going to get deployed pretty much right away. Now your target completion date is 10/27 for broad, and that means that we're going to be finishing our patching. Our deadline is going to wrap up by the 27th. So what that means is these devices, as soon as they come online and pull policy, they should be pulling down those payloads and getting ready to apply those right away.
So I mean, I like this. Yeah, because this is not unlike what we currently do today for the most part. Like our day zero, ring zero is, my team, and we get it immediately in, available patch Tuesday as soon as they come out, install them right away, no grace period, and then we get 5 days for IT, another 5 days for pilot, and then general deployment. So it fits. It's great.
Another thing you're going to notice is you'll see feature updates down there. Those are our baked in feature updates that'll roll you to 21H2. That's being rolled back. So expect in the next week or so, we're going to actually change that to automatically upgrade devices to, they're going to upgrade to the lowest supported version if you're not already there. Just to make sure that you're on a supported build rather than going to 21H2. But the cool thing is you'll see up at the top left corner, you'll see a pause and resume button. Do you see that up there?
Yeah.
Pause in Windows Update for Business only allows you to pause for a certain period of time. The cool thing about this pause within Autopatch, it actually lets you pause indefinitely. So you can click the pause button right there. And it actually brings out a flyout where you can actually pick what you want to pause. And then at what point we ask for reasons because we're always gathering this information, but you can type in whatever you want. Feature updates are always going to pause the entire feature update. But if you go to quality updates, this is pretty cool. So in quality updates, you can type in, just do a pause, do okay. Oh, it's because we're at the end of the month. But this is going to pause all of your quality updates. So you just hit okay. And then that's going to kick off in the background and actually move your entire schedule to pause for quality updates. So you'll see there customer pause has been initiated. Now, if we were to do a service pause, what that would look like is, let's say we were tracking the payload for Windows Update and we saw that there's been some adverse effects going on in the community. We see that payload, the WSD team within Microsoft has come back and said, hey, we're going to pull this back. We can go ahead and initiate a service level pause for you to your tenant. So that way we can mitigate the impact to your environment. But now you have the ability to hit the resume button and go ahead and resume the updates within your environment. With this set, this would prevent your groups from resuming. Now, one thing, or prevent them from kicking off again. You do have the ability now to pick what group you want to resume and which ones you want to leave paused. So let's say that you had a bad payload, it's been resolved, you want to start going ahead and re-releasing that, but you don't want to release it all at once because we're already past the deadline. You can go ahead and just do.
What I'll get you to do, Adam, is clear all those tick boxes for me, just again for me, and then just tick broad. And what will happen is when you select broad, it will automatically select every ring before broad because it shouldn't be being released to broad until the other rings have been done.
Right.
That's how we did pause and resume. Is that a little bit easier than modifying the WFB policy?
Well, yeah, I mean, ish.
Yeah.
I never paused the updates, but that didn't work.
Apparently people do it. So pause is not something that's super common. I mean, you only pause when there is like a noticeable. I mean, we've seen pause be an issue with like specific hardware models where you needed to pause because drivers are coming down or a specific update interfered with a specific driver. So what you'll see though is coming soon. We talked about the AMAs. You're going to have customizable rings. You're going to be able to define when they kick off. You'll have a lot of configuration over the settings all coming within that. What is this? Fast updates. That's not a.
This is a quality update.
This is us using proper naming conventions on our things.
With the smiley face.
We worked out how to do emojis.
Yeah. So all right. So my next question then is I still want to circle back to some of the user experience piece, but so if we want to expedite an update, is this still the place where we would do that? Even if we're using Autopatch, could we do that? Or
right now in the service, if there is an out of band update that comes out that would be listed in here, we automatically expedite it through the service, and that is expedited within 1 day. So we set the deadline at 1 day. It's pretty much advertised and available immediately, and we enforce the reboot at 24 hours.
Okay.
So that's automatically done by the service. And then what we're actually introducing is into our reporting, we're actually introducing into, so you saw that pane that you had with your release schedules. We're actually going to be very shortly here, you're going to see your out of band updates show up in there as well in your release schedules when they become available. So that's coming very soon.
And then all the dates will just say now, right?
Pretty much. They'll say, the day after, pretty much, that they'll be enforced. But we also have that documented on our docs where we talk about the release control of our individual rings. And then when an expedited update comes out from WSD to Windows Update, for us, we expedite that. And we will be providing an opt-out button for enterprises that don't want an automatic expedite. Because we do have customers that are like, look, even if it is critical, we don't want it until we're ready for it. So we do have the opt-out button coming with that as well.
Okay. So I'm just grilling you here on all the things.
Go for it.
So what happens if I don't want to include all my devices? Oh my God. Let's take a moment. Look what we have. This is not what I expected at all. That is, did everybody pause it, rewind? I'm speechless. I did not. You've created new update. Yeah. I didn't. You say that like I knew that. Nobody has. Yeah.
So
I didn't see this. I didn't see this on the first pass through.
It's because you were bouncing around so quickly.
So now I can see the things.
Yeah. So one thing I'm going to correct Adam on this is if you scroll down, we do actually specify a grace period of 2 days.
Oh,
for the first, and then the fast we have.
But I can see my grace periods now. Obviously, I assume I don't want to touch these.
So you're more than welcome to touch them, but if Microsoft makes a change to a policy, it will get overridden.
But it also answers the question I was going to ask, which was if somehow we get an overlap, who wins? Well, it's going to be the same problem that we have today, which is I've got more than one policy applying to the same machine, and they're going to be in conflict.
So,
but this is fantastic. This is great because you've taken it from this black box of where we were just setting it up, and now my machines are getting these updates, and I don't really know anything, which is kind of where I thought this was it. I mean, you guys didn't tell me where we're
going. Well, you didn't let us get further into it.
But you didn't. Anyway, this is great. No, this is awesome. You're letting me have this experience, and it's wonderful. This is it's even more.
I want to make your life entertaining.
Yeah. So, but this is great because it goes from this was feeling very black boxes still to this where it's like, oh, you've put it back in a very familiar place, but you just are managing it for me. But this is something that I can absolutely, show someone and screenshot and say, this is exactly how this is configured. And you know what, if you don't like this experience for X number of devices, cool. We can exclude those and then just build our own custom update. And that kind of stuff. So, well, that's wonderful. I like it.
So we do. If you go to configuration profiles, we do have a number of configuration profiles that we push out as well that are for managing, like, let's say Office updates today, because we do Office updates with monthly enterprise channel. So what you're going to be looking at, we have a bunch of these modern workplace policies. We have not scroll. Yeah, they scroll up. There, that's all by name. So unfortunately, we did not make the cut. Being pushed out right now this weekend, and it's starting to roll out is, and you guys will actually, this will hit your tenant in the next 4 weeks, depending on where you fall in the allocation. You're going to get our settings catalog policies pushed to your tenant. If you notice under modern workplace, all those policies are custom. So they're all like, OMA URI CSPs. And a lot of this was just because of the architecture of this service was built on. And we've converted all those over to settings catalog DCV2. And those are all come in within the, you'll see it in here within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, probably.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that will automatically happen in the background. You won't have to do anything for that. We'll just move them over for you, and then automatically repoint them to the new devices.
Okay, so all right, so just gonna call this one out directly here. So you're setting settings that I've already got, and I assume we're gonna have some overlap between what you've got here. So how are you, like, do you have a list of things that if I'm using this don't, like, I mean, do you have a list of all the settings that I can go and take out of my other policies and exclude, or?
We do.
Whatever.
We have it listed on our docs. So on our docs, we do go over, and yes, Steve, I saw your eyes, but we got those on docs of all the changes that are occurring in your tenant under that you can go through and, yep, thanks, Steve. That tell you about these configurations. The nice thing about settings catalog is settings catalog handles it a lot more eloquently than custom policies. Custom policies are a little archaic. So we're super excited to be moving over to settings catalog with all these policies. So you shouldn't see any more custom policies after that. Now, I will tell you this, working with the Intune team, the custom policies will stick around for 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks after they've been deployed, the settings catalog, because they're leaving them in there just because of tattooing, and then they'll do an administrative remove once the new policies have set in. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so we've talked mostly about the Windows updates.
Yeah.
But now, okay, so I'm seeing this stuff in here, and Office.
Yeah. Office.
We use config.office.com.
Yeah.
And
so you're using, oh man, they're going to kill me because I forgot the official name for that.
Service profiles.
Thank you. Service profiles. Don't tell anyone in, oh shoot, they're going to know. So you're using
like
service.
The Office Rangers
yeah.
actually watch.
Like, yeah, nobody
Bob
gets it.
Clemens,
we're an hour in. Yeah. Nobody makes it this far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and so a good buddy of mine's on the Office Rangers team, Bob Clemens. If you guys don't get a chance,
he's been on with us.
We know Bob.
Bob and I, we go way back even. But so servicing profiles will actually overwrite anything we push through our service, which is good. I mean, we're totally okay with that. So if you're using servicing profiles today, you can kind of ignore Autopatch managing any Office components within your enterprise. I can't share anything more than that today of what the future is for Autopatch in Office, but I've got some really good feelings about the future. So.
All right, well, let's move on from that. So, okay, so you're saying that and so I don't know what all is being configured in these, but
yeah,
is it really safe simple. Is it safe to say that the configuration that you're pushing down from Office I mean, all of these things are then overwritten by the servicing profile?
Yes.
And okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's a very simple policy. We're really just defining the monthly enterprise channel, and then where, how quickly to pull for those there's not a whole lot there. And those are all CSP. With the nice thing is the settings catalog, we get rid of all the ADMX ingestion and stuff like that with settings catalog, which is always problematic, especially if you've already have an ADMX ingestion if you're doing that. So a lot of that gets cleaned up with Office. So, and you'll see edge policies in there too. And edge policies were really, I mean, to Steve's point that he was talking about earlier, we're just defining the, we just do the standard release for all of our rings except for test. You get the beta ring. So,
well, so I like the beta and correlation here, like where it flips you over to test, because we've had we forced our IT folks to be on beta and edge, and I mean, that kind of takes us out of that management piece of it. Is just like make sure they all make it into the test group and everybody gets beta.
Yeah, and then that gives you a good sample of devices that if something does come up, hopefully they give you a heads up that there's something there. So.
We had one instance so far where we found it on beta. We found a bug with a thing, and no one realized what we had found, that it was this is a pre-release, it's a beta release of Edge and it's about to blow us up. And we missed it. Like nobody, because we've been using beta for so long.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever, we've never used it for anything. And then it was like, oh crap, how did we miss that? but it's
Well,
worthwhile to have.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, at a high level, that's how our policies work. We have the Windows Update policies. We have the configuration items that are targeted to our groups, and that's all managed by the service. You can go in there and you can see everything that is done. Most of that is exposed. One of the cool things that we've also do is a lot of customers ask about, like, well, how does Autopatch manage my tenant? And we do that with a first-party application, which is actually pretty cool. Do you want to see the first-party application?
I wanted to ask you one question before we go there.
Yeah.
You mentioned reporting.
Yeah.
Is that
we don't want to look at reports. So if you go to the reports button within the Endpoint Manager portal or Intune portal, and then what you'll see is a new section is going to light up in here. If you scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see Windows quality updates today. You're going to see, more reports popping up there, especially as the new features for feature updates are coming out. This will be enhanced. The reason you're getting an error here is the error shows up for about an hour after we enroll the tenant, because what we're doing is we're waiting for the data from your tenant to sync into the backend service before those reports can be generated. But if you scroll up, this page here is meant to give you a high-level overview of how your tenant is doing. So the idea here is you get to see how many devices are up to date, how many are in progress, how many are paused. Also gives you an understanding of, like, a couple that are not offered, a couple error codes, and then what needs to be, what can be done with it. We have some really cool things coming for reporting that we're going to do some pretty heavy revamping of this to help tell a total customer story. And that's something I'm actually personally working on right now. So we can do another conversation around reporting in the future.
So will this, because of the way that this is implemented and what we saw with it having Windows Update profiles, will they just show up here as well under the existing Windows updates? Awesome.
Yep. And those existing reports will work. But if you go down to quality updates a little bit further down for Autopatch, go to quality updates, go to reports right there. You'll also see here that you have, like, historical reports as well as ineligible device reports and eligible device reports. A lot of these are going to get updated, but this gives you the ability to kind of filter down and view, your updates per rings and stuff like that within your environment.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
that's all in there.
Before we go across the AAD app, we have one other thing that we should talk about in the Intune portal, which is support tickets.
What is it?
Support tickets. So
what do you need a support ticket for?
Yeah, if we go to tenant administration, obviously it's there as well, Windows Autopatch, but if you go to tenant administration, the reason why we want to go through this way, if we scroll down, Adam, what we should see is now where we had enroll tenant, we now have those 4 options being messages. So this is where you're going to get your service messages about what's going on in the tenant. It's only going to be for the life of when your tenant's been on, not historical. You'll see all of your admin contacts here. So you can add, remove, update, etc., etc. Awesome. Support requests. These are the cool ones where you can go in here and raise a support ticket and go, I have a problem with an update where application X hasn't updated correctly, and the Autopatch team will work with Aperture to get that fixed for you.
Very cool.
Tenant management is we introduced when we're actually migrating from our old auth to first party auth. Customers are getting notifications in their tenant to go here and then migrate their tenant. You'll also see notifications here. So if there are any, let's say you have a rogue admin that goes in and just starts deleting stuff and it breaks, like, they delete the update policies for Autopatch. In the future, what we're building right now is actually notifications to notify you and a button that you can actually just revert them and rebuild them back into your environment. So a lot of that's coming, and that's what tenant management is going to be used for moving forward. So really a lot of tenant remediation and actions that need to be taken to repair something that might have gone awry. So
just to quickly show you what that looks like in one of my other tenants. Just give me a second.
And I've got it in mind too, because I haven't performed the function to roll it over yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. So what you'll see here is I've now gone to tenant management. You'll see that I have the tenant access, and I can click on that. and it'll go, yep, and it'll go and change that to remove the service accounts that previously were there and convert the remove these groups and conditional access policies, which is pretty awesome. And I'm going to submit that change because it is important, and it's going to convert mine to first-party authentication, which Adam will go through now.
What's the conditional access policy we get?
So you don't get it anymore.
Oh, hey, jackpot! All right.
So
I don't have to talk to that team. Yeah,
you don't have to talk to that team. In the past, we used very early in the service, we used service accounts with the initial release, and we needed conditional access in there so our service accounts could continue to operate.
So if you've signed up to Auto early or before today, make sure you go to that tenant management and convert your authentication, because your security team will be happier with this. But we will automatically do that soon, I'm sure.
So what you can do is, I typically will go in here, get rid of application starts with, exit out of both those filters that are set. So just kill them both, and then just do a search for modern.
That's so many more things now.
Yes.
So what you'll see in here, we have a number of apps that are built as part of our service from the integration, but the one that you care about is Modern Workplace Management, the second one down there. This is our first party application. The cool thing about this is now, like, those people that are very security minded can come in here and see what roles and what permissions we actually have to your tenant. So what we can actually do. So if you go down under security and permissions, this will tell you all the permissions that the Autopatch service has within your tenant. And one thing that we did with this most recent migration to this first party app was really limit the control as much as possible. So least access privileges within your tenant. So you'll see a lot of like read all, just so we can validate and make sure that there's not something else there that's going to cause a problem. But you're not going to see this like read write to everything. We give our service the ability to create groups, and then we assign our service the owner to those groups that we create so we can remove them. But we don't have the ability to read existing, or modify groups within your tenant, stuff like that. So if you look at these permissions, these are all the permissions that the service actually has. And then you can actually see, the activity logs within there as well. So now that this is a first party application, it's also excluded from conditional access. So you don't have to build exclusion policies for conditional access for the service to work. It's all running as part of the Azure backend, fabric. So pretty cool, huh? Any questions about that?
No.
It's good. I mean, for a lot of security teams, they typically ask those questions. They're like, hey, what is this going to do? Here, they're all published, and you have full visibility into what's going on there. And it's pretty straightforward.
I really like everything. This really is much better than I anticipated it being, and I'm kind of glad that I waited to look into it, because it's just this was a much better experience just seeing it firsthand like this. So yeah, I mean, it looks like you've done all the work that we normally would have to go do. And I mean, like, I'm looking at it saying, I've already done this work. Mm-hmm. And now I've got to go, like, when I run Autopatch, it's going to basically redo all the work that I've already done, but just in a different way. But for folks that are, I know I'm really oversimplifying that, but largely, I mean, just changing rings and changing the settings and stuff a little bit. But the long-term benefit is that you're managing this for me, and I don't have to look at it anymore. And it's like, all right, cool. And then but really the value add is you're adding rings for me. You're managing those for me dynamically. I've got control over that still, though, so I can choose who to enroll. I can still customize groups. And I think that's a huge, huge value add. And then I think just in general, like, for folks just starting with this, who, like, if you're still in WSUS, you're still in Config Manager, or you're a small shop and you don't want to have to think about this, man, that's just the sweet spot. And it's included in your Windows E3 or M365 E3 licenses. That's even better, because it's not a premium add-on.
It's not a premium add-on, and it doesn't cost you anything more than what you've you've already paid for it. Like, you own it. Like, these are services that you can take advantage of as part of that benefit of, you know, our enterprise, being an enterprise customer. So
now, one thing I would ask is, does any of this support like an exclusion group off the bat? Like, if, for example, if I set up my group, the main group, the Windows Autopatch device registration group, to just be like all devices, I guess I'm trying to figure out how do I manage my exclusion group of like custom lab machines or things that I just
don't
never
add them to Autopatch.
But I want to patch them, but I don't want them in. Maybe I never want them in these first groups. But when a new one comes online, how do I ensure that it never makes it into that group? You know what I mean?
we just introduced a really cool concept, and you're going to learn a lot more about this over the next like 4 to 5 months. Really, it should be about 3 months, but no one's committing to any dates. And but we introduced a concept that we're calling business groups. And the idea around business groups, and this was talked about in our Ask Microsoft Anything, is that enterprises now have the ability to go in and configure additional rings that they can identify as, hey, put all these devices, let's say kiosks or these very sensitive devices into this ring, set this schedule, set this deployment type, and go. And it gives you the ability to even target by security Azure AD group. So you can then say, well, I'm not going to put those into just the general bucket. I'll just target them directly, and then I get reporting, visibility, and understanding of how they're going. I can pause and resume. I can do a lot of the same things I can do today, all right in the portal, and have that level of control. And this is feedback that we've been getting from many customer conversations. So we've been reaching out to a lot of very large customers, smaller customers, asking the community about like, hey, what is the things that consume a lot of your time? And our goal is, like you said here, it really to take those complex problems or those challenges, simplify them down, put them in an easy to use portal, take a lot of the best of what Microsoft has to offer in matter of tools and just make it easy to use. And hopefully get you to a point where you don't have to do a whole lot with it.
Well, I mean, I definitely like that. So I think what I just heard is that the scenario I'm going to throw out is something that you would end up supporting in the coming soon in the business groups potentially. Is so I know all the people who are my IT members, but I don't know their devices. They build lots of machines, whatever. So if I say I want the primary users of all these devices, here's my list of users, give me all the devices that they're the primary users of, and I always want them to be in the first ring or my test ring or whatever. Does that, I mean, is that kind of what you described? Is that where we're headed?
So
basically people-based targeting instead of device-based targeting.
User-based targeting, and follow the policies around with them. That's feedback that we've heard quite a bit. It's not going to be in these initial releases that we have coming, but it is definitely something that we've heard a lot about. And it's definitely something that we are, very, very interested in. So, but today in these next releases with business groups, don't expect to see user-based targeting, because it adds another level of complexity onto there that we don't do today. Okay. But we definitely, it's definitely a very interesting one, and one that to your point, Adam, we've heard it before.
I feel like Steve hasn't been at the table at these conversations about this at this point internally, because Steve's been yelling about it's all about the user for like since we started this channel, and I feel like somebody at Microsoft should have heard that coming from Steve by now.
Have you noticed I've been very quiet on this conversation, Adam?
Yeah, and I'm
going to just step aside from this one because there is a lot of passion associated with it. But as Adam inferred, there is it's something that we've taken as feedback, and we're definitely investigating.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, like it's not just this. There is still this disconnect between the user and the thing we're trying to target, and we're still having to put lots of pieces in place. Like in our environment, we are taking the Intune primary user, and then we are taking attributes of that user's Azure AD object and using Graph. We're writing those attributes to the extension attributes on the Azure AD device, so that we can get like the location, the site that the user is at, and assign that to the device, so then we can assign scope tags and RBAC and things to it. And that's just this stupidly complicated, convoluted thing. Let me use those attributes from the user object that's assigned to the device to apply things to the device. So that's not just you, but like that's where we're headed, and enabling us to do that with the tools you're building, making it so that we can use users as the target, I think is,
and then associated devices. It would have to be something where the user is, we don't have to get too far into that.
Yeah,
but
let's not go down that journey today. It's a big pain point for the platform, that we're very. It's not an uncommon conversation, Adam, is what I would say, and it's something that's definitely being investigated.
I mean, I'll accept that. It's fine. Well, this is awesome. I mean, we've gone for an hour and 20 minutes at this point, but probably one of the longest, really good discussions we've had, where it wasn't just we took this long because we had trouble. This was very interesting, and I very much enjoyed it. So hopefully,
and it pretty much worked the first time. It can't be an Intune training demo.
No.
Oh, actually, no, it didn't change rings. It didn't change groups. So,
and I actually just pinged the guys on the back end to look into that, because I'm a little concerned, because I noticed the same thing in another tenant. So
pending though.
It does, and that might have something to do. There is a push happening tonight.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that you'll probably see those update tomorrow morning.
Well, I mean, it's worked for somebody prior to this. Otherwise, you wouldn't have told me to do it. So
you'll see it in some of my demo videos that I post.
It'll sort itself out.
Yeah.
But regardless, Adam, I cannot thank you enough for being here and for chatting with us. I definitely feel very informed by this. I know Steve's probably just bored because he just lives this at this point, but I really hope that
it was interesting. It was great watching you capture it and understand it and get excited about it.
I personally, I don't know what it's like to watch me have the epiphany moment, but I personally love first look going through this stuff with folks. To me, it's genuine, and it's like, yes, I get it. It's clicking.
That's the goal.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So thanks again, Adam, for coming on, and really looking forward to seeing what's coming out of this. I'm so glad that that Steve drug you in here. So it's awesome.
I can't thank you enough for finally. I can't thank you enough for having me, and just remember, I represent a very large team of a lot of people that work really hard on this, and we're all like super excited about those customer experiences. And just seeing your reaction is just kind of a confirmation that we're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely. So, well, all that said, thanks for coming, and definitely, come back again when you got some more cool things, or if you just want to chat about random stuff.
Let's talk about gaming back in the 90s.
Yeah, why not?
Indeed.
Let's go.
Why not?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks, Adam. Have a good one.
Take care.